Hi everyone, it's the Board Game Doctor, and today we're going to go back in time to Scotland during the 1920s. We're going to go explore a supernatural event involving a ghost and a murder. So join me now on the TARDIS as we go explore Mysterium. Alright, let's take a look at what comes in the box for Mysterium. The artwork, as you can see on the front, very slick, very nice, well done, high quality. Opening up the box, this instruction manual, I'm a huge fan, I think as most people are, of directions that are clear, to the point, that have lots of illustrations, and add some components to the theme, right, or some element to the theme, and that's exactly what this booklet does. When you open it up, there's this whole backstory that's provided in here with a lot of newspaper clippings. Now again, is this information necessary to play the game? No, right? But it does add, I think, to the whole experience, right? It really adds a little bit something extra that makes this game even more special, in my opinion. Also, in this instruction manual are the bios for each of the potential players that you will be in the game. And you gotta bear with me, I'm still trying to figure out how best to do this on the camera, but trust me, there's 6 different bios for the 6 potential players that are acting as psychics. And also in this manual, there is, as I mentioned, a lot of diagrams that really help in setting up the game. And again, just I think a spot-on job of just identifying each of the components, where they're placed, which we'll talk about in a moment. I just think they did a really wonderful job in this manual. So thumbs up on the instruction manual here for Mysterium. As far as the components in the box, we'll talk about this in a moment, but this is the actual screen. One of the players will be the ghost, and the information that the ghost is working on needs to be hidden, and that person will be behind this screen. So very high quality screen, which we'll talk through in a moment. In addition, I won't go through all of these because we'll talk about it through the gameplay in a moment, but there is a clock, again, really great to the theme here. And this clock really represents the phases or the rounds of the game. There'll be 7 phases of this game, or 7 rounds, 7 hours if you will. So after each of the phases, this clock will progress to the next hour. In addition, in this box, there's a lot of other pieces, parts, but in addition, there are a number of cards. And you can think of these really as clue cards, providing clues. So the ghost, which we'll talk about, is unable to speak in this game. So one player will be the ghost, and all the other players will be the psychics. And it's a cooperative game. I'm not sure if we mentioned that earlier, but Mysterium is definitely a cooperative game. And the ghost will be providing various clues to each of the psychics to help identify who committed the murder, where they committed the murder, and with what object. Should sound somewhat familiar to another game that's been around for many years called Clue. And really when you think of Mysterium, it really combines Clue components, or I should say mechanics, along with Dixit, which makes sense because Mysterium is from the same creators as the creators of Dixit. And when I say Dixit, I think most people have probably played that game or are definitely familiar with it. And there's these very abstract images that are on these cards. I mean, take a look at this. A little bit freaky in nature, but this card is one of many of the really strange, odd type of cards, and they're meant to be very abstract because these will be the clues provided by the ghost to the psychics, I should say, that are going to help determine again who did it, where they did it, and with what object they used to create or to murder the individual. Sorry, trying to do 2 things at once here. Sometimes difficult. So anyhow, those are the components as far as the cards, the clue cards. And then what you'll see as well are the actual location cards that will be used to represent where. You know, we talked about the where. In fact, again, let me show, these graphics are pretty cool, so I need to show you this. So the front of these cards, all of these cards will have what looks like stairs on it, or a room, and all of these cards will be given out on the table to represent the location options. of where the murder took place. There's a number of cards that are going to have a person on it that look like this. And these will be the various suspects that murdered the individual. Okay, and then finally, the last set of cards represent the weapons. So you'll see the back of these cards has a shield and a sword, and then there's a wide assortment of different types of weapons, ranging from a stool, which would be kind of an interesting way to murder someone, to a trunk, to a fork, another interesting choice, to a heavy typewriter, and I think you get the idea. So that rounds out the three different types of cards. All right, let's talk about how to set up the game board. You'll notice that there are three specific sections. There's a section at the bottom, the center, and at the top. In each one of these sections, it represents where we're going to be placing cards, either for the suspects, for the location, and for the weapon. So what we'll be doing in this case is we're going to count out the number of cards based on the number of players and based on the difficulty. So in this case, because we're going to have, I'm just going to mock up a 4-player game, there will be 3 psychics, which we'll put the playing pieces down here on this first level for the 3 psychics, and there'll be 1 ghost. So talking about the setup then, for this space here, let me hold up this for a moment, you'll see there's a picture of a person that represents the character or the suspect. So there's a whole pile of cards that will match that same icon of that person that you'll see on all the back of these cards. And what we'll do for a 4-player game, looking in the instruction manual, it talks about for an easy, medium, or hard level game, there's a certain number of cards. So for an easy game, let's say with 4 players, we're going to need 5 cards for each one of these sections, for the person, for the place, and for the weapon. So for the person, for the suspect, what I'm going to do is count out just randomly. I'm just going to grab 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each one of these cards actually has a number on the back, because you don't want to look at the cards yet, on the back of the card. So this has a 2, there's 11, there's a whole bunch of different numbers. And what you're going to do is tell the ghost behind the screen what number, this is all just during the setup right now, right? What number is on each one of your cards. And what's going to happen is you're going to match the number on the back of this card with the cards that the ghost has behind the screen. And really, they're going to be the exact same thing, right? So if I look at card number 2, that has a 2 on it for the character, it's actually, it looks like a nun, scary looking nun there. And the ghost is going to be using these cards behind his screen. And he'll go through this deck, and what we like to do is just keep the numbers in consecutive order, so it's much easier to find the numbers as you're looking for them. And these are random, remember. So this person that picked these cards for the character came up with number 2, as I mentioned, and there's a number 2, which is the exact same card, which is a nun. This will make a little bit more sense, I think, in a moment, if it doesn't make sense already. So these 5 cards then that were randomly chosen and are communicated to the ghost at the beginning of the game for setup. They have 5 cards now behind the screen. Oops, they represent the same 5 pictures. Okay, so there's the 5. You can do the exact same thing with the location, and these locations all have numbers on them as well. And there is a list of 5 weapons that will also have numbers on them. So you set up the game table as such. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go through very high-level steps of gameplay. So here's what happens. Let's say that I am player red, and there's also a white player, yellow player, and as we talked about earlier, there's a ghost. What the ghost is going to be doing is taking a look and trying to determine which of the clue cards make the most sense to try to get me to guess, because we're at this level right here, what the right suspect is that committed the murder. So in this case, the ghost is going to give me, without speaking, as many cards as he or she wants to try to make me understand which one of these suspects is the one I should be picking. So here's the 2 cards that I got. The 2 cards that I have are like a whole bunch of gold, it looks like, and a hat. So what I need to do now is go through and look through each one of these suspects down below and determine what or how this clue would represent one of these people. By the way, again, this is very cooperative. This is the fun part, so you can be talking to all the other players except for the ghost. And while I'm doing this, all the other, actually in this case, the other two players are also going to be getting cards from the ghost at the same time, and they too will be trying to determine if their cards match up with, or which card it actually matches up with. So in this case, again, there's a hat, right? So this hat, I look across these cards, this suspect has a hat, this suspect has a hat, and I guess this nun kind of has a hat, but it doesn't have to be the hat. It could be the color, it could be the shape, it could be the symbols, it could be anything. So in this case with this hat, in itself doesn't really tell me exactly who it is. I could be guessing, but luckily the ghost gave me another card, and the other card is what looks like gold. And if I look at this suspect right here, this archaeologist, I see that there's gold and there's a hat. So my guess is going to be, and I'm going to take my player token and I'm going to put it on this card that indicates that's my choice. Again, at the same time, the other players will be doing the same thing. So let's just say that the ghost also gave a couple cards to the white player, and let's say that the white player thought that for their guess, it was a clockmaker. So then what's going to happen, all three players will be doing the same thing. Let's say the yellow player thought it was, I don't know, the nun, whatever. What the ghost will be doing is we'll be setting the timer after the last person gets their set of cards. This timer will start. And now we have to try to determine all the other levels before that timer is done. For this card, for this match, for this part right here. A little bit of a mess up. Okay, so at this point what's going to happen is all the players again are talking. We all have these colored tokens. So I have a set of red. And one of the colored tokens has an X on it, and one of the red colored tokens has a check mark. So one means no, one means yes. So let's say that I don't agree with this white player, that their cards that they got from the ghost, or the clues, are actually the clockmaker. What I'll do is I'll take my token with this little pointy part, pointing to this player right here, saying, no, I don't agree. And all the other players will be doing the same thing. I don't know if you can see this yellow one down here, but let's say for the yellow one, let's say that I do agree. So I'll take my token that has a check mark, that means yes, and I'll point to it saying, yes, I do agree. Again, and everyone else will be doing the same thing. Let's say that this white player agrees with my red one, and let's say that the white player disagrees with this yellow one, right? So everyone will be doing that. What will be happening at that point is the ghost will take a look, and without talking, will basically progress the people that got it correct to the next level, because the next level is going to be determining what place the crime happened. So let's say that the red token, who is me, was correct. So the ghost will be taking that and putting it on the next level, indicating that I was correct. And let's say that the white player was incorrect. So the ghost will take the white player and put them down below, again, with no talking whatsoever. At this point, what the ghost will also be doing will be representing through this score tracker above points based on which people got the answer correct or which people got the answer wrong. So without going through all of them, let's just talk about the fact that I don't remember which one you moved now, whatever one this was pointing to was white. Let's say the white player was actually wrong. I said the white player was going to be wrong, so therefore I will progress up one level on the score tracker. Right? So this process will continue again for the place. So the ghost will give, again, me a number of clue cards to help give me the clue of what the right place was, and the same thing for the other two players. Eventually, we'll get up to this next level. Some of us will get up to the next level, and the same process will happen again for giving clue cards for the weapon. And at that point, once we get to that level, then what will happen is, so when the players finally reach the very top, they will each have an envelope corresponding to their color with the choice that they've made, the accurate choice, for each of the three levels. So in my case, at this point, I would have had the player, let's say the place, and say the weapon was a revolver. So let's say those were the three clues that the ghost gave me. And the other two players will also have their own envelopes. So the ghost will have those envelopes. The ghost will have those envelopes. And at this point then, all the players will be determining which one of these sets is the accurate choice, because only one set has the right solution. Okay, we're gonna stop there. There's obviously a lot more to this game. If nothing else though, hopefully you got an appreciation for the high quality components and a very high level step-by-step process of the gameplay. Strongly recommend this game. It's definitely a big thumbs up in this household. So you know what? We're done for today.
Exterminate!